Thanks for joining us for another episode of Changing the Heartbeat. If you would like to have more information, please feel free to visit our website at citybeat.org. Now we are going to jump into this week's topic. Our prayer is that your heart is open to what this topic is about.
What's up, everyone? Well, guys, this is Pastor Jared Michael, and man, it's been way too long since we initially launched this podcast. So I don't even know where to begin. I'm sitting here in my office, just overwhelmed to be back and ready to just share some things. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just start from when we initially launched the podcast. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of share some things I want to just share about today. So we launched a podcast the beginning of this year, and we called it Changing the Heartbeat with Jared Michael. But we launched a campaign with that podcast called The Real and the Raw. And The Real and the Raw was basically me just opening my heart as an inner city pastor, but also as someone who runs a nonprofit that deals a lot with impoverished neighborhoods, with addiction, with just things plaguing inner cities across America and honestly across the world. So we started the podcast and we basically just kind of went topic by topic, and I promised one thing, that we would be real and raw with everything we talked about. So we talked about addiction. We talked about trash in inner cities. We talked about just so many different things. And you can go back and actually re-listen to all of them on our podcast. All those episodes are still up. But God did some amazing things through that. So many of you guys listened each and every week, and it's just been phenomenal just to share some things. My heart wasn't to stir up trouble, so I hope you know that. My heart was simply just to be honest and to share how we can tangibly be people that see change in our lifetime and don't just continually see a need and just keep pushing it to the side and saying, man, that's just terrible what's going on, or that's terrible when we read things in the news, or we drive through inner cities and we see communities that are just overwhelmed with poverty and so many different things. And so that's my heart with this podcast. Well, when we ended the 4-week campaign, The Real and the Raw, I promised that I would keep releasing once a month a podcast, just maybe bringing in guests, sharing some things. And, well, COVID-19 hit, and it changed a lot. And I'm sure, as you know, it changed a lot. It changed our world. And so I apologize for not staying on top of it, but I want to just update you on the reasoning behind why we weren't able to really release podcasts the way I intended to do so, and also just bring you in. And so we're going to continue the real and the raw conversation today. And I might be a little scatterbrained because it's been a while. And so I really want to just take my time, but just want to just try to release a lot of things that just is in my heart. So that's why we're set up today. And I do want to share this. We are actually, for the first time, for the first time since we launched the podcast, we are live, well, not live, but we are throwing the video portion up on our YouTube channel. So you can go to City Beat Church, which I think if you just type in City Beat Church, will be the first ones that pop up. And you can watch the video, which it's basically just me talking. So it's honestly not much cool. Also not much cooler than just listening to it. But if you wanted the visual side of things, you can watch. I'm just sitting here in my office, just hanging out, just enjoying being with you guys today. And so I'm going to appreciate you taking some time listening today. Again, if you don't know me, my name is Pastor Jared. Me and my wife, we pastor a church in the inner city of Baltimore, in southwest Baltimore City. It's in a community called Carrollton Ridge. We are known as Ground Zero in Baltimore City. Basically, our community is pretty much the worst of the worst it gets, with drug addiction, with violence, with just community impoverished in need. And so it's been an honor to pastor here. Me and my wife, we love the people here, and we have basically just given our life to serving the needs that come across our doorstep every day. And so what I want to do today is I'll just kind of update you of what's been happening since COVID-19 hit, which has been March, technically, I guess March. And I'll just share some things that we've been going through, share some amazing things that we've discovered along the way. And so When so we're in Baltimore, Maryland, and so when COVID-19 started to hit, we initially Baltimore didn't shut down right away. Obviously, they started implementing some different strategies to slow the spread, and then eventually everything started to shut down, and then we got the word that things were just pretty much shut down altogether. And so one of the big outreaches that we run here that's really effective in our community is our soup kitchen. It's called the Bread of Life Soup Kitchen, and we run it 2 days a week. And so we basically serve restaurant style. People come into our church, which is the downstairs, and we serve them. They come in, they sit down, and we basically just serve them a meal, and we love on them. We let them feel the dignity of what it is to be not just a human, but to be a child of God. And so we've been doing this for years, just serving people and loving on them right where they're at. And so they come in addicted and high, homeless. We got families that come in that need meals. And so this is a big way to just help out in their life. And so we've had people start attending our church and coming to our church and giving their hearts to the Lord because of this soup kitchen. Well, when COVID-19 hit, everything started to shut down. I started to really ponder in my mind what that would look like for us, because we're outreach driven. We meet on church on Sundays, which I knew our church could go online. That wasn't a big deal. What was a big deal was there was going to be people who were going to be in need, people who were going to really suffer in our community due to everything shutting down. So I started seeing that different soup kitchens around us were shutting down, schools were shutting down, and so that meant kids that would normally get food from the school, breakfast and lunch, weren't able to do that. Everything just kind of went boom, shut down. So I met with our team, our staff, and I basically just shared with them some things God the night before had placed on my heart. Basically, God was speaking to my heart saying, stay open, which I was like, how's that going to work? And as I prayed more that evening, I just felt the Lord kind of laying some things that we were going to be. My prayer's always been, God, let's be a lighthouse in this community. And I felt the Lord just saying, this is an answer to your prayer. You're going to be a lighthouse now more than ever. And so I met with our staff the next morning and our team. I said, look, we need to stay open. God spoke to me. And I don't know what it looks like. I have no idea what we're going to do. I have no game plan. I just know we have to stay open. Things are going to change drastically of how we serve, but that's okay. We're just going to be flexible in this season, and we're going to keep serving. So that's what we did. Starting in the middle of March, we basically took our soup kitchen and made everything to go. We started just bagging up lunches and basically whatever we were able to get from the Maryland Food Bank, which is a huge, huge, huge supporter of us. And I just want to give a quick shout out. Thank you, Maryland Food Bank, for just backing us in this season. And so we started making everything to go, and it took off. We started opening up, staying open Tuesdays and Thursdays, serving right out the church door, obviously masked up and everything sanitized and safe, but still serving. And before long, we started meeting a whole new window of people from around our community that were coming and saying, thank you so much for staying open. Our kids normally would bring home food for our family, but all that got shut down. So thank you. And before long, what would normally be hundreds of people a week, we started to serve. We used to serve hundreds of people a week. Now we were serving thousands of people. Yeah, that's how drastic this changed. See, when you pray for something, don't be alarmed when God comes in a different way, but it's really what you prayed for all along. I hope that makes sense. And so that's really what happened. We began to be a beacon of hope to our community. And so March came and went, April, May, and we're just serving people. Kids are coming to our soup kitchen, getting bagged lunches, saying thank you, and they would get tons of food to take home to their families. And then the Lord really sparked about 2 months in that we need to open another day of the week. Look, the weekends are hard for families. The weekends are making it very hard for people to make it through the weekend. And so I said we need to open on Fridays, and we need to give people above and beyond what we normally would so they can be prepared for the weekend. And so we started opening on Fridays. And we started serving people, giving people. We had families come that were just so in need, and we would just load them up with whatever we could. People were still donating, and so many people were being generous during this season. And I honestly didn't know how long we could run this, because the honest truth was in order to keep our staff here, to keep food coming into our doors and serving now all this many more people, it takes money, it takes resources to do that. But the Lord was so faithful. People started to give. I launched a $20 campaign. I said, hey, if you want to give $20 to help feed a family for a week, we'd love that. And people just started giving $20. And man, the Lord just opened up the floodgates of heaven with people's generosity. And so we started serving and serving. Then we opened another day. So Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and our team, our staff, we just went gung-ho. We didn't relent. We just started going. New people started coming down and volunteering, and it was just phenomenal. And so here we are now in August. It's officially the day I'm actually recording this is August 14th, which is Friday. And we have served now about 12,000 people since March. That's adults that are addicted to drugs, homeless people. That's families. That's children that normally would get fed in school that basically didn't have any resource, so they were coming to our church doors. Now, thankfully, at this current time, things are starting to open back up a little bit. More soup kitchens. We have some nonprofits around our church and around our ministry center that have opened back up and have been a great resource to our community. But the initial state of in March, when everything started to shut down, that was like a pivot point for us. In basketball, I heard some preachers say before, in basketball, you have your pivot foot. One foot has to stay planted because if you move both after you stop dribbling, it's called traveling, right? So one foot has to stay planted, but another foot pivots. It's working around the court trying to find someone that's open. And that's almost like what March into April into May into June was. It was us staying planted with where God's called us, but pivoting and things looking different, and the Lord just being so gracious to us and us being able to bless thousands upon thousands of people. We had churches step up to the plate and come and see what was going on today. We want to give you financial support, and wow, it was such a blessing. I'm like, this is awesome. And it really made me think back of when we started the Dream Center, which is our nonprofit side of what we do. We have the church, and then we have the Dream Center. And it really made me think back of those early days when, I say early, we're started a Dream Center roughly about 5 years ago, 2015 in February. And so when we started the Dream Center, it was just a bunch of us gung-ho for the Lord, ready to see a need and meet it, to find a hurt and heal it. And really, that's what this season has been. It's like getting back to the ground roots of what the Lord initially stirred in my heart. Being on the ground floor, as a ministry begins to take off, as a nonprofit begins to, get a little bit bigger budget and things, it's like you're able to bring on staff, you're able to, balance some stuff out, which is great. You need that if you're going to go for the long haul in ministry, especially in running an outreach ministry. But this season has just been different, where it's like the Lord stirring up fresh things in my life. And the reason why I wanted to do this podcast today is share with you, because I don't know where you're at in this season. I know COVID-19 has affected everyone, and people are feeling isolated. People are feeling like, what can I do? Especially people who are so used to a balanced life of working out, work, being home at a certain time, like balancing things. Everything kind of got unbalanced. And what we've been seeing through this season is God desires just faithfulness from his people. I knew going into this pandemic, things obviously were going to look different. What I didn't know is the amount of people that were going to be blessed by our faithfulness. The amount of people that were so thankful. We had families coming up that were in tears. Think about this, in tears. Because they said someone told them about our church soup kitchen being open, and they were literally starving. Now, when I say literally starving, we think of like third world countries. But people literally in our inner cities are starving. They're addicted maybe to drugs, maybe families. We have Hispanic families that are from, around the world that come into the city of Baltimore and don't speak much English and don't know how to, really adapt to living in the United States. And so a resource like what we have is a blessing to them, because even though the language gap is different, when you give someone a meal, that's universal. You know what I'm saying? Think about it. Jesus ministered to people universally. Like, it didn't matter their background to him. It didn't matter where they were from. It didn't matter what ethnic group. It was the need that attracted Jesus to them. The need. And that's really what the Lord's really been dealing with my heart over the past couple months, is getting back to the ground roots of the need is what should be drawing his church, his people. Like, when there's a need, we're drawn to it. Now, that's not a common thing in our world today because it's convenience, right? The world says what's convenient to you, what makes you comfortable, what makes you happy. But Jesus is all about the need. Where's the need at? And how can we meet that need? You know, we had a Hispanic family that came into our building. The mom didn't speak any English. The kids, roughly spoke some. And my wife just began to lavish the love of Christ on them. We don't know the whole thing, but it was her and her kids. They came into our building, and we began to clothe them. We had tons of clothes the mom's face was glowing when my wife showed her these clothes and said, hey, pick what you want. And, even though the language gap's different, when you're just pointing to people, hey, take what you want, they're like, wow. And we just begin to load this family up. And it really, just began to show me and remind me that our mission as Christians on earth, because remember, earth, we're just passing through this place. Heaven is our eternal home as Christians. And if you're not a Christian watching today, maybe this podcast will get you thinking about eternity. But as a pastor and as a Christian, I understand this earth is just temporary. So what I have here on earth isn't necessarily just for me. It's that the needs around me can be met. Does that make sense? It's not always just financially. It's time, right? Majority of this season in my life has been time. It's been overloading time in areas where there's been needs. And it's not always convenient. But the Lord is what strengthens you for the task at hand. It's not my strength. It's his strength within me. And while we were running the soup kitchen and all of that stuff was going, when we got into the summer, I know, again, I'm a little scatterbrained, but just I told you this podcast will be a little different. And so, because I'm trying to update you with months and months worth of stuff and trying to highlight some things. And so when we got into the summer in June, we were serving one Thursday, and right as we were opening up, a young boy, 24 years old, got shot right across from the church on Wilkins Avenue. And the police were there, just a horrible scene. Tons of young people just all around, just devastated. And then a week later, a man got shot on the other side of our church, right next to another church that is right by our church, right in broad daylight on a Sunday afternoon. And the Lord started to stir my heart again, just like he did in March when we kept the soup kitchen open. And I felt the Lord saying, Jared, your church needs to step it up and take a stand. And so we're running the soup kitchen 3 days a week, feeding thousands of people, meeting needs. But now I knew the Lord was about to take us into a new realm of things. And so I felt the Lord saying, you need to step up, get outdoor church right out on the street. And so we called our police precinct. I said, hey, we don't have time to pull permits, but we need to do this. And so the police precinct did, yes, go ahead and do it. And so for a whole week long, every night, 6 to 8, we set up outdoor church. My wife is gifted with playing piano. She sings. And we would just set up every night, have a time of worship. And then we would share the word. We had Logan and Donna, who are phenomenal. I'm going to actually try to get him on this podcast. You can hear his story. But him and his wife were drug addicts, were homeless, right in the area where our church was. They used to come to our soup kitchen and get a meal here. God drastically saved them. And they have beautiful kids now. They're both married. And now the Lord's put in their heart to plant a church, which is phenomenal. Again, I'm going to try to bring him on the podcast, so I don't want to share his full story. I'll let him share it. But he was coming. He was sharing his testimony all week long. And the Lord was just breaking hearts. The meal met a certain need, but now the spiritual need was beginning to be met in our community. So many people broken and desperate for hope, right? The world is changing. You have COVID-19, then you have a racial divide starting to hit our nation. I just want to speak real fast. This racial divide, it's horrific. It's injustice, and we do need to take a stand as the body of Christ. And you may say, well, what does that look like? That's something you need to get in your prayer room, in your prayer closet, and begin to pray about. That's what I've been doing. God, help me. When needs come across that have to do with this racial issue, God, help me be able to speak life and to speak out against injustice in our world. That's what Jesus did. He would see needs, speak out about injustice. I mean, good Lord, read the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all about his ministry. And we're supposed to be examples of Jesus. And so we started taking a stand all week long, and then I felt the Lord saying this needs to go all summer. So on Sunday nights, Friday nights, we started just setting up pop-up outdoor church, and people started to really respond. We had one lady sitting, there's a bar right next to our church, right? Funny how that works. So a bar right next to our church, a lady was sitting there, began to melt her heart during worship as tears were coming down her face. Logan shared his testimony. He also has a gift of rapping, so he's rapping. And I got up, started to share, hey, if anyone's here, and maybe you've been met by the soup kitchen, right? We've been serving you. But there's a spiritual need that needs to be met right now. And even before I got to any further, the lady ran across the stage, got up from the seat of her at the steps of the bar, ran across the stage, ran right to what we had a blue tent set up, and just began to weep and cry with one of our volunteers. She knew she was hopeless and needed a savior. Powerful. And then recently we had two different guys that were in addiction. One guy, Mike, came on a Sunday night. My dad was with us at the time. My dad pastors a church about 15, 20 minutes away from where our church is at in the city. And Mike showed up, and my dad was talking with him, and Mike kind of just shared a little bit of a story. Hey, he lost his wife a few months ago. Tragic to him, hit him hard. He came to our area because the drugs were very hard in our area. Like I said, our area is known as Ground Zero. And so Mike said, I need Jesus. Man, my life's a wreck. I'm addicted to heroin. I'm addicted to all of crack. I mean, everything. The streets have just grabbed a hold of him. He said, I need a savior. So my dad prayed with him. He came on the blue tent. He gave his heart to the Lord. And I got to talk with him. And I said, Mike, if you meet me here on Tuesday, I'm going to take you to detox. We're going to get you clean. Most of the time you share that with someone, it's a kind of 50-50 if they'll even show up. So I get here to the church early on Tuesday, about maybe 7:15. Mike is sitting right on the church steps. And when I show up, he looks right at me, and you just see his countenance change, like, ha. And I met Mike, and I said, hey, we're going to make this happen. So we got him into detox, and it's phenomenal what God's doing. So Mike's in detox, being detox currently as we speak. He's clean. So is the other guy that I talked about, Norris. He's in detox as well. I said there was two guys. He's clean as well. I mean, the one day it was like rapid, taking one guy, taking another. It was like, boop, 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 boop. But here's what I've learned. Okay, so I started just sharing a few minutes ago about seeing the need and what can we do. But there's another thing that a lot of Christians ask for, which I don't think they really realize the reality of what they're asking. You ever prayed, God, use me? You ever prayed that before? Right? Down at the church altar. God, use me. I pray that all the time. But what I've noticed is sometimes we get offensive when we feel used. Think about this. We pray God use us. But then when he says, okay, here's the need. I need you to be used. We get mad. God, the timing's off. God, do you know my schedule right now? Like, come on. Seriously, God. And God's kind of maybe scratching his head a little bit saying, I'm confused. You prayed, use me, so I'm trying to use you. And that's honestly the honest, the real, the raw of what the season's been. It's been us all along praying, God, let us continue to see a need and meet it, find a hurt and heal it. And it's us being used. And sometimes you're going to feel drained. You're going to feel exhausted. You're going to feel like, man, God, is this COVID-19? Is this racial issue? Is all of these problems, are they ever just going to come to an end? And I don't have the answer to that. I wish I did. But I know God has the answer. And my job is to be faithful. Your job is to be faithful, to be kingdom minded. Remember, Jesus is looking for Christians to step up to the plate in a season like this and be used. To be used sometimes means you're a bridge. And the cool thing about a bridge is it provides a lot of great scenery, right? If you're driving, we have what we call the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which apparently right underneath the Francis Scott Key Bridge is where our national anthem was written. And it's beautiful. You get on, you drive over by the top, the peak of it. It's beautiful. The harbor right over the water. I mean, it's just gorgeous. But the thing about a bridge is if you're going to desire to be used and be a bridge to help people find hope and healing in their life, it means people are going to walk over you. It's going to be draining. It's going to be tiring. It's going to be times when it just feels like I need to rest. And I understand all that. Rest is important. And we're learning that more and more. But I do know this. God honors the faithfulness of people who will keep at the plow and keep working for him. And here's what I mean as I kind of wrap all of this up today. So when we started the summer, we'd been serving thousands of people at our soup kitchen. We'd started the stand. All of this stuff going on. I mean, me and my wife just going, our staff, we had people, we had a young lady, and maybe I'll get her on the podcast as well. She quit her job and became a U.S. missionary just to serve constantly with our ministry, with our church, because it was just like the Lord put in her heart and boom, everything gone. I'm all in. That's all in, people. Again, you do what God calls you to do. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing else. Do exactly what he speaks to you to do. So we started to stand, all of this stuff going. We're in the middle of the summer. The beginning of the summer. And the food bank, who was one of our big partners, called us and said, hey, we admire you guys staying open when no one else was staying open. Your community, you were the soup kitchen you guys were running. We really appreciate that. And so the lady on the phone said, to honor your commitment to serve the people in your community. Now, the food bank ain't a Christian organization. They're a nonprofit that has a couple locations that basically supply food to nonprofits and churches and soup kitchens to help them keep running. You can get food at no cost or very little cost. I mean, what you would pay a fortune for at a grocery store, you're getting pennies at the dollar. It's just wonderful, wonderful, amazing stuff of what they're doing. Well, they basically said to us, since you guys have been faithful, stayed open, we want to give you guys $6,000 a month throughout the summer to use for your soup kitchen. Basically, when we came, we had $6,000 to spend. So we went from, feeding with whatever we had to giving people, Ruth Chris maybe. We're not serving steak, but just kind of the analogy, right? We're giving people the prime of the prime, just going above and beyond. And also, we were able to bless other ministries, other nonprofits who couldn't stay open. Now we're able to say, hey, what do you guys need? What would help you get open and run smoothly? Oh, we could use this and this and this. Okay, it's done. We're going to order it for you. And that's been phenomenal. So we went from mid-March, just praying, God, we're going to stay open. I feel the urge. We're going to stay open. We feel the call, not even knowing if we're going to make it 2 months. And here we are months and months and months later, thousands of people served. But now it's overflowing from us that we're blessing other nonprofits. We're seeing God transform lives. And that's why I want to just end today with just encouraging you. We're in a wild season. We're in a crazy season. We're in what some would maybe even call a hopeless season to some degree. But the Church of Jesus Christ has the hope of the world inside of them, called Jesus. And that's what the world needs. And it won't just come from Sunday morning preaching. It's going to come from the grassroots people seeing a need and meeting it, finding a hurt and healing it. And so if you're going to honestly pray in this season, God, use me, don't be shocked when he decides to use you. It's going to come at a price, time, talent, treasure. But it's worth it because God will have something on the other side of that need that will sustain you and allow you to meet more needs. We're meeting more needs than ever right now in this season. And people would look from the outside looking in and say, how in the world is this functioning? I have no idea. That's the common theme around here. We have no idea what we're doing. We're just following the Lord, and He's been faithful, and He provides, and we keep doing what He's called us to do. And that's what I encourage you today. What is it that maybe you're lacking that you need to just be faithful to what the Lord's called you to do? Okay, so your church is shut down. Okay, so this is shut down. I'm not going to get in those debates, those discussions. That's not why I'm on this podcast. I'm on this podcast today to say there's needs all around us right now. Come on. Find a need and meet it. Look around. There's people literally hurting. You have the healer in you. Help heal that need. I could go on and on. I don't want this podcast to be 6 hours. It could easily be that. Just of all the things the Lord's been doing in my heart. My prayer is we'll keep some podcasts going. I'll bring some friends on with me, and we'll pop them up spontaneously. Just follow the Apple iTunes podcast. Follow Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Alexa. You can talk to Alexa and say, "Hey Alexa, play Changing the Heartbeat with Jared Michael." We're on now YouTube where we have the video portion. So just stay up to tune. Follow everything. We'll let you know when the podcast. And so my heart is just going to be I'll share amazing things that God's doing. But I'm also just going to keep challenging us as the body of Christ. And if you're not a Christian today, anyone can serve someone. But you have to have eyes to see it. Or you can ignore it and act like it doesn't exist. But that doesn't change the actual problem that there's needs, there's hurts. And when we have eyes to truly see and a heart compelled to meet the need. I love you. I'm praying for you. If you got questions, if you want to go deeper in discussion on this, you can email me at jared@citybeatbaltimore.org. I'd love to chat with you more. If you want to find ways to partner with us, you can go on our website, citybeat.org. You can click on the Dream Center page. You can donate $20. Can feed someone for a whole week right now. God's continuing to sustain us, and He'll continue to sustain you as you are busy about your Father's business. I love, and I'll end with this, I love how Jesus, his common theme was, he would reply to his disciples, "I'm busy about my Father's business," right? He would be helping a young woman who was hurting. They said, "What are you doing?" He'd say, "I'm busy about my Father's business." He'd be helping a leopard get well. Disciples, "What are you doing with that guy? He's dirty, unclean." Jesus responded, "I'm busy about my Father's business." And my response, I pray your response would be this when people ask, "What are you doing?" "I'm busy about my Father's business." I'm going to get to heaven one day and God literally say, "Jared, I couldn't keep up with you. I just had to keep helping sustain you because you were so busy about my business." And I pray that over you as well. I love you. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm praying God's best for you. Why don't you see a need and meet it today? Find a hurt and help heal it. God bless you.